All right, it is now just after 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Yes, we can hear you, Graham. Okay. All right, technical difficulty.
I can hear you clearly, Ian.
Okay, we can hear everybody. Thank you very much. All right, I'll try this again. It's now just after 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023, and I will call this regular meeting of...
Can you please mute yourself, please?
Okay. Everybody stay calm. Third time's the charm. It is now after 7 p.m. on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. I will call this regular meeting of council to order. I respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the homeland of the Anishinaabe and the Cree, and the traditional lands of the Métis people. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website. Thank you to Frank in the East Beaches social scene for the setup and accommodation. And thanks to Mike Bartmanovich for being our technical support person. Looks like we need your help again. Sorry, everybody.
Guys, can you turn your mics off, please? No, Graham's still on.
All right. So, sorry about all that. We will move on to introductions around the table. On my far right, we have...
Good evening, everyone. Erwin Comfort, my name is Counselor. You got to admit, I sure know how to call a party.
Hello, I'm Councillor Graham Randall. Welcome to our meeting, your meeting.
Mayor Penny McMorris.
CAO Lon Turner.
Steve Axworthy.
And Councillor Chadsey is on video.
All number one needs to turn off.
All right, I'm going to try and keep going. I do apologize. We have the first order of business, adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Erwin? Second? Steve, thank you. Any additions?
I'd like to add proposed bylaw 1643.
Any other additions, gentlemen?
I'd like to put forward a resolution that requires a separate meeting for each reading of any change to the ORV bylaw. And I would also like a resolution to discuss the ORV issue regardless as to the outcome of either of these bylaw readings.
There will be an opportunity to discuss the bylaw in under other business, Steve. Steve? Okay. Any other changes, gentlemen?
No.
So we have bylaw 1643, proposed bylaw 1643, which is an ORV bylaw. And Steve has asked for a resolution for 3 meetings for the ORV bylaw. And you're all right with my...
Which ain't your opinion at all.
We turned off our mic so they can't hear us. Sorry, it's not very often that we get this kind of crowd.
There may be some issues with bandwidth in the community sense in the club here. Could we ask you to turn your phones off perhaps so that the Wi-Fi is not as impacted? Sorry. All right, Ian, can you hear me now?
Mayor McMorris, if I could just make a comment. It is up to the call of council to determine whether or not the second and third reading can occur simultaneously at one meeting. I think it'd be a bit premature to make an arbitrary decision tonight. Let us see how things play out. There are some elements of timing. There's some elements of timing that I think could impact on things going forward in the short run. So I'd like to suggest that we leave that decision up to council after and when we have the second and possibly the third reading.
All right, gentlemen. Any more discussion on adding items to the agenda? Steve, are you all right with that?
It's a resolution, so we can either put forward, we can either push forward with the agenda as is, or we can defeat it and talk about it further.
We're not defeating the agenda.
I mean, not move forward with the agenda. I just simply mean we can first, second the adoption of the agenda, move forward or not, and then we can have a discussion over it. But I stand by that resolution. This issue is obviously way too big for a quick fix. And so I just want us to confirm that if we're changing the ORV bylaw in any way, that we have 3 readings, each one in a separate meeting.
Gentlemen?
We can add it to the agenda and then deal with it.
Okay. All right with that? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me now, Ian, or not.
Could you try talking into the laptop and not use the microphone?
No, the laptop is at the other end of the table. Sorry. All right, so we'll move on to the minutes of the January 24th, 2022 regular meeting of council that have been circulated electronically to all members. Be it resolved, the minutes of the January 24th, 2023 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Second, Steve? Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, no further questions. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Ian, I'm going to have to carry on without you. Moving on to delegations for tonight. So just a little bit of housekeeping, if you'll bear with me yet again. There are many people in attendance tonight, and I thank you all for being here. And I realize you're mostly here to support and listen to delegations presenting to council in regard to bylaw 1614. We have 10 delegations on our agenda tonight, and your time limit is 10 minutes. Otherwise, we'll be here till midnight. We'll try to warn you at the 9-minute mark to wrap up your presentation to try and keep things on track. Council may ask questions or ask for clarification. And the audience is not here to ask questions or participate in the discussion, but to listen respectfully to council and to the delegations, please. We will not tolerate outbursts, disruptions, or abusive behavior or language. I do have the authority to close down the meeting, to take a break, and to remove people who do not behave appropriately, but I don't think that's going to be an issue tonight. This is a council meeting, and council is here to conduct the business we were elected to do for the residents and the taxpayers of Victoria Beach. Before we get to the delegations, please allow me to clarify some misinformation that I'm being told is floating around the community. Number one, council is not legally allowed or authorized to direct how the police choose to enforce our bylaws. Our police are tasked with enforcing the bylaws and provincial statutes and other acts. They have not been directed by any council member on the enforcement of this or any other bylaw. Bylaw 1614 was passed unanimously in February of 2021, almost 2 years ago. That bylaw included snowmobiles as ORVs per the ORV Act definition. Bylaw 1614 replaced the long-debated Bylaw 1582. It was discussed, debated, argued, we received dozens of emails and phone calls and received many delegations over almost a 9-month period, from the first reading in July 2019 until it passed third reading unanimously on March 17th, 2020. During that time, we received 2 valid petitions that showed 39 residents of Victoria Beach voted against bylaw 1582, and 150 residents of Victoria Beach voted in favor of bylaw 1582. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not sure what else is floating around, but there's some clarification.
And was that 1416?
Excuse me, there's no questions, sorry. All right, so without further ado, our first delegation is Mr. Rob Monkman. Would you like to come up, sir? Please turn the mic on, Mr. Monkman. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Hello, Don City. My name is Rob Monkman. I'm a homeowner here in the undistricted area of Victoria Beach. I'm a Métis citizen and also a Métis harvester. Am I year-round full-time resident? No. Am I here most of the year? Absolutely. I'd also like to go that the current bylaw impacts the peaceful means of harvesting. Harvesting is more than hunting. Like I had said before in another meeting, this is also fishing, wood cutting, medicine picking, and this is practice and respectful way year round.
No, thank you. Can you please sit down? No, thank you.
Okay, so that being said, I'm going to go back to the acknowledgement of the land, okay, which is grateful and appreciated, so thank you. There's a portion that was read in Manitoba in the legislature, November 29, 2021. And the last part of that is we respect the spirit and intent of treaty to treaty making and remain committed in a partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. What we're going to focus on tonight, I want to speak of collaboration in a couple of minutes, but more so community collaboration is my intent. So, as I mentioned earlier about the current bylaw, how it impacts, yes, people are getting pulled over, people are getting warnings, okay? That's fine, it's appreciated. However, if we're not doing anything wrong, why are we getting pulled over? I'm speaking solely for snowmobiling. As for anyone, a delegate that wants to speak otherwise, side-by-sides, pods, I'm not here for that. But I hope they are here so they can speak. So, that being said, snowmobiles have been around a long time. We use this mode of transportation to and from, to egress onto a main trail and to get back home again. I'm looking to bring awareness to a resolution this evening, okay? That's what it's about, you know? So, that being said, I'm glad that people have come out tonight, because from what I understand is that people hardly show up to these meetings, out of frustration, not having their voices be heard. Well, this is the time, and if someone wants to push through 3 readings, put your name forward for the next meeting. Have your say. It's okay. We all have a voice. We need to be heard. Everyone has the right to be heard, so let's be heard, okay? That's what it's all about. That's what a democracy is to me. No matter what you represent, which delegation, Métis, whomever, however you identify, be proud of that, but use that, okay? Be heard. You have a right to be heard. Thank you. And that being said, is that it shouldn't matter that whether we're, permanent resident, cottagers, part-time, the division is clear. There's a lot of hurt in this area. I've only been here a couple of years with my partner Kathy, and you can see, you can talk to people. People are hurt, but they don't know where to start. It starts now, It's really frustrating. So, that being said, what does a resolution look like? To me, that's a mutually agreed upon set of amendments to a current bylaw. For example, tolerances and allowances between designated times of day could be, for example, 2,200 hours, 10 p.m. to say 0700. This being, I recognize the bylaws enforcement are a necessity. They are required to be enforced. However, focusing on those that are using ORVs outside of a potential resolution should be the primary focus. Those that are being respectful and not going around making noise, causing disturbances. There should be a tolerance for that. And that, like as I mentioned before, just because you get a warning ticket, that's not resolution, you know? That's an awareness that you're still being watched, okay? No disrespect, officer, but that's the fact. We don't need to be pulled over if we're not doing anything wrong. If we're acting like grown children on it, absolutely, we should be pulled over. So, I'm not gonna give my time, it's already 5 minutes, but I wanna make sure that I'm heard. You know, for me, we can start this process with a resolution to the bylaw, specifically ORVs, like I said, snowmobiling for me. Just to, I've got a lot of words here, but I just want to keep it in time frame, so that's kind of frustrating.
I'll give you a little bit of additional time to share this out, so.
Thank you, Councilor, I appreciate that. You know, so defining a time that would allow residents, both permanent and seasonal Métis citizens, as well as everyone that resides in the community, however a person chooses to self-identify. I touched on that. And I touched on limited voices. Like, I'm very passionate about people being heard no matter what you choose to be. You need to be heard, and you need to step up for yourself. Obviously, tonight this shows that there is a common interest, so we are here for each other. But you have to put your name forward as part of the democracy process, and we have to make that time. So thank you all for being out tonight. So when I say this to the council members, it's no disrespect, it's just an awareness, I think, of a frustrated people and a frustrated municipality. So council members in Reeve, I ask you to respectfully see beyond this tiered regime of local governance to embrace the democratic process and run this municipality inclusively rather than with bias and occlusion, so we can all use this land in peace and for healing. Thank you much.
Thank you very much. Council, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Muckman?
Mr. Muckman, thank you for your presentation. Can you tell me how you feel your harvesting rights and privileges have been affected or would be affected if the current bylaw was rigidly enforced?
I think it was clear in my statement, but I will specify for you. Rigidly enforced, it's a matter of cost of money. That's part of the process. If I get ticketed, that was my conscious choice to go under the current bylaw. However, money needs to be made. You have to make money to live, okay? So it's just that plain and simple. You know, I don't know how else to answer that.
Do you have a snowmobile trailer?
Whether I do or not, it's irrelevant. Because where I live, and you can look there, you can check my name after and my address, that's on you, is that I'm gonna do that for 200 feet? Counselor, please, that's kind of ludicrous in my opinion, and that's just my opinion. I can't speak for anyone here, but I'm sure everyone has pretty close to the same thoughts.
I agree.
So you want to get from your residence in BB to the lake, or to wherever you're fishing, is that correct?
Correct, I mean, I think the majority of people just want to get to a paid-for snowman trail, which we all pay a pretty penny for that. And I know cost of the machine, cost of the licensing of it fall on some deaf ears, and that's fine, I respect that. You know, that's okay, but facts are facts.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
No further questions. Thank you. We will move on to number 2, Blake Taylor.
Can you hear me? Now you can hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Blake Taylor, and I'm president of the VBCOA. There's been a lot of misinformation spread on social media over the last month as to who we are and what we stand for. So for the record, the mandate of the VBCOA, the Victoria Beach Cottage Owners Association, is to, and I quote, preserve the historic, unique character of the vehicle-restricted area in the area of Victoria Beach, known to many as the VRA. We speak for many, many hundreds of property owners in this specific boundary area. Full stop, nothing more than that. When it comes to the areas outside the VRA in the RM and BB, we want those non-VRA areas to decide themselves what happens within their boundaries. We have no desire to tell other areas what they should or should not do. It's up to those communities and associations to speak for themselves. Patrick Hober, president of the Plage Albert Beach Association, and I agree that council should put on the brakes regarding changes to the ORV bylaw 1614 and hold proper community consultations. I stand here with knowledge of evidence that the overwhelming majority in the VRA are opposed to allowing ORVs in any kind, at any time within the VRA. I can provide council with more information if required, but the VBCOA did not come here with our arms stubbornly crossed, nor with a line drawn in the sand. We came with compromise. I want to mention now one such idea of compromise we would like to offer for within the VRA. Grandfathered permits for snowmobiles, which is a compromise based on what was done a long time for long-time permanent residents in the VRA. I suggest that if council comes up with a plan to provide permits and stickers to residents who currently have snowmobiles within the VRA on a grandfathered basis, then it may be a plan that is acceptable to many. It can be modeled on the permanent resident permit plan that started many years ago with perhaps 8 permits and is now down to 7. The permits would allow egress and ingress only, exclusively to the lake, the highway, and to the trails. It would allow current snowmobile owners who reside in the VRA to go quietly in and out of the VRA and to the lake and to the trails in Alexandra and beyond. At the same time, it would prohibit snowmobiles from outside the VRA and the RM from driving around the VRA, and would answer concerns about the potential proliferation of machines in the VRA. I discussed the idea with Police Chief Kevin Paul, and he indicated that the police could enforce the policy with stickers on the machines and permits carried by the resident snowmobilers. If council's interested, I'm sure that they can iron out the details, and the VBCOA would be happy to discuss and be involved since we have more ideas about how this might work for the community. Additionally, we also want it to be known that we offer our support to opening Safi Road and Rue Girard to residents' machines and possibly to machines outside the RM so that there is access to Safi's store. However, to be clear, we offer this support only if that is what the majority of the residents within that area want. We do not want to tell them and people in RM areas outside the VRA what they can or cannot do, just as we do not want them telling us what we should or should not allow within the VRA. Yesterday, our executive received an email from Raymond Morrow, a man who served this municipality as Chief Operating and Administrative Officer from 1989 to 2011, and again from 2018 to 22. Yes, 28 years. There's no one with more experience and knowledge and wisdom about this municipality and its history and traditions, its workings, and how to govern it than he. So rather than solely offering the VBCOA's opinions and solutions today on the ramifications of any major overhaul of Bylaw 1614 as it pertains to the VRA, we feel it's more important to put into the public record the wisdom of someone who knows more about this issue than any of us, someone who truly knows the full ramifications. So I'll share with you some of Mr. Morrow's own words by quoting from his letter. He begins, "I would respectfully suggest that council think long and hard about the justification for making changes and the far-reaching consequences of permitting ORVs on municipal roads as follows. Number 1, need I remind you that council has a responsibility to represent the majority of municipal taxpayers and residents. Its decisions to legislate should always be in the best interests of the majority, not the typically vocal minority. This responsibility is clearly outlined in 83(1)A of the Municipal Act. The oath of office each one of you took is also a confirmation that you will act in the best interest of the electors as a whole. Will passing a bylaw to allow ORVs on the municipality's roads be representative of the majority's wishes, or is it pandering to a small vocal interest group? Are all these individuals demanding change taxpayers or residents of BB? Number 2, caveat emptor. Everyone who bought property at Victoria Beach should have known the ground rules. Ignorance is not an excuse. Council should not be making changes that significantly alter the landscape of Victoria Beach because certain individuals don't like aspects of BB that set it apart from neighboring municipalities. There are other municipalities that are far better suited for the widespread use of recreational vehicles. There are approximately 1,800 dwellings in the RM located within a very small landmass. Is this the type of location that is ideal for unrestricted ORV travel? This issue is no different than people who establish a permanent residence in the VRA and then want to drive their vehicles to their homes during the summer. The purchaser knew or should have known the restrictions apply to everyone. They had the option of establishing their residence where driving is allowed, instead of expecting the rules to be altered to suit them. Number 3, the RM of Victoria Beach is the only municipal jurisdiction that has the legal authority to restrict vehicular traffic within its boundaries by bylaw in accordance with the provincial statute passed in 1933. This restriction is likely the main reason many people choose to purchase property in the VRA, and it is probably the main reason property values are much higher in that portion of the municipality, and that those property owners pay a greater portion of the total municipal tax levy. How does allowing ORVs on roads complement this long-standing authority to regulate and prohibit traffic in the VRA? Are the majority of property owners in the rest of the RM in favor of allowing ORVs? Is this what the majority of all the municipal property owners want? Number 4, noise. Property owners complain about barking dogs, chainsaws, lawnmowers, construction noise. Have you thought about the increased noise that will surely result from allowing ORVs on our roads?
2 minutes, please.
Do you think that will reduce noise complaints and encourage people to buy property at BB? What do you think will happen to property values if ORV use is out of control? And should it significantly reduce property values in the VRA, the rest of the RM's other property owners will be paying a greater share of the municipal taxes than they pay now. Number 5, and remind what neighboring RMs are doing. They likely allow ORVs because A, their geographical area is vast with small residential pockets. B, their roads are much wider with clear intersections. And C, there is no effective way of controlling ORVs in other municipalities because they do not have municipal police. That is not the case at BB. And the RM purchased a police ORV to at least have the ability to enforce the Off-Road Vehicle Act and the bylaw. Number 6, has council considered liability that the RM will be exposed to by allowing ORVs on our roads? And the requirement to properly sign all these roads so that motorists will be forewarned that ORVs are allowed. And the obvious increase in risk to public safety, children, walkers, cyclists, etc., and the inevitable rule breakers who will speed, drive anywhere and everywhere, including environmentally sensitive areas. And the increased exposure to theft, break and enter, wildfires, etc.
30 seconds.
In my humble opinion, allowing ORVs on the RM roads is the thin edge of the wedge. It will eventually completely alter the aspects of VB that have attracted so many people to the municipality. What's the point of having a vehicle-restricted area if you're going to allow ORVs? If the majority of council members are seriously contemplating open municipal roads to ORVs, I would contend that those council members are out of touch with the expectations of the majority of citizens who elected them. Regards, Raymond Moore. Another time?
You're out of time, Blake. Yeah, hang on, Blake, sorry. Are there any, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Taylor?
It's not so much a question as it is a comment, which is that is probably the only actual full compromise that is not only enforceable that I've heard, but that basically ticks off all the boxes of almost everybody's concern. So I just want to thank the BDCOA and you, Blake, for bringing that to council.
Thank you. Erwin? Sorry.
Just a short comment as well. I am also pleased to see that BDCOA is taking a more balanced approach to consider all aspects of our various beaches. The conditions of the VRA are unique. I totally respect it, and I'm committed to protecting them. But the rules that might apply in the VRA may not be quite appropriate for Wanising Beach or Albert Beach, because the conditions are different. And I really hope that we can strike a reasonable compromise.
All right, thank you very much, Blake.
I'll add my thanks as well, Blake, to your suggestions as to how we could resolve this. Thank you.
It's nice to hear some compromise solutions put forward, so thank you. Up next, we have Graham Cameron. Graham, if you want to open up your mic, you are up.
Graham, it's all yours. Go ahead, Graham.
Graham, can you hear us? It is your turn, sir.
As I understand, nobody from online can hear us.
It sounds like no one can hear.
You might want to put up a sign or something, so Grant can read it.
Yeah, he just did.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Okay. Am I on now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully with this broadcast, when it goes out on YouTube, can we see from your side, everybody can be heard. I haven't been able to hear anything as of yet, but nonetheless, here we go. First off, I'd like to point out on the January 24th meeting that Reed McMorris confirmed that the RM does indeed have control over the roadways and can scrap, amend, or alter at least to a bylaw. And I would argue that's been a staple of Victoria Beach policy since the train stopped running. We mandate that cars are parked on the highway, we alter speed limits on Provincial Highway 59, and we allow cars to park on the shoulder of that busy highway. You will note the common thread running through all these changes relates to the seasonal needs of bettering the community. And all our neighbors, neighboring RMs have adopted them. That is what is lacking in this bylaw. It's taken a group of people united for over 6 decades in an enjoyable seasonal pursuit and villainized us all in one fell swoop. All of this done without any tangible representation of residents being harmed by our long-standing coexistence. I'd like to give the benefit of the doubt and go back to the COVID winter when it was so warm out there and we had a population boom, and a lot of people didn't see that there were snowmobiles out there that had never been there before. And they were easily influenced by alarmists telling them there's something nefarious going on. Really, it's been the norm for the last 60 years. This timing coincides with the rise of the issue of late opportunity. Manitoba winters, with their cold temperatures and inhospitable environments, tend to be very stressful, and any opportunity to out and recreate, no matter what form, is essential to our well-being, both physically and certainly mentally. Why on earth would one group of neighbors want to deny that to another? And it leaves me bitter, and I wonder why some cannot put themselves in the other shoes. I understand how the Antis don't want reasonable speeds and no private property damage. Well, here's one. You know that one teacher is riding. A lot of us start out by sending them out in the parking lot in a safe environment, fenced in, where they can learn skills before they went out on the main trails where there's traffic coming both ways and behind them. You're frankly jeopardizing their safety. Imagine somebody telling you that your kid could learn to drive in a mall parking lot. You had to take them directly out to the highway, hope for the best. This is a safety that we give up and sacrifice in answering your demands for your unfounded fear. In 45 years of riding, I've never heard of someone wanting to ride a beautiful trail to another resort community so they might drive up and down the avenues there. It does not happen. There will be no big influx of machines within the gates. There is no need for any more costly and pointless ideas like stickers or permits here. We've all been too quick to throw away money on gates already when council must have anticipated there'd be an immediate backlash. Accept that an error has been made and let's move on. No more concessions made to try to save face. The Victoria Beach Cotters Association, with their own website, states that use of these machines, with the use of these machines, we move one step closer to year-round vehicle use in the VRA, and even goes further in saying that use of snowmobiles can bring other ramifications down the road. This kind of fear-mongering is dangerous, divisive, and unjustified. 60 years or so, virtually unchanged, no one wanting to change a damn thing about how we operate. Councillor Axworthy is clearly uninformed and mistaken to quote the term caveat emptor, stating there are riders who bought machines without checking legal bylaws first. I would wager there are professional few who went out and bought machines after this February 2021 ruling. I know that all the original settling families, the folks who built the original sports club and made this place what it is, all embraced this pastime when these conveyances came along 60 years ago. I would point out to council and perhaps Mr. Axworthy in particular that those who are wishing to deny freedoms to are long-term responsible riders. We're not some group of Johnny-come-lately types wanting to tear up the beach. Sadly, this is being put forth as solving a problem when clearly one has never existed. I really hope that this roster of council will be refraining from creating divisions sadly evident in previous groups. It was said, and rightfully so, that anybody wishing to participate in this meeting come forth with some concrete arguments in favor of our request to overturn our amendments. And I would expect nothing less and feel that is exactly what we're doing here. But respectfully, I would ask the same level of cogent argument to come from council. Other than some constituents saying, well, I just don't like them, what true detriments have been presented? I just don't see any supporting examples here at all. And please, let's not use straw man argument about a bunch of people flying around or destroying property. Any scofflaw that is out there will be dealt with by our capable police force, and that should not reflect on all. Police ticket many people on that 70-kilometer approach to the highway, and who is suggesting that we have to trailer our cars from Albert Beach to the parking lot in order to make that go away. It's also a little short-sighted, perhaps more than a little bit arrogant, not to consider how this decision affects others, not in the area, but still within our community. People who live less than 60 feet away from Sappy's will be highlighted crossing the road to fuel their machine. It's the same for the Traverse Bay folks, and indeed all the surrounding area. And the loss of custom most assuredly is a devastating blow to Lisa and Jerry at Sappy's, who volunteer and support all things VB all year round. Once again, it seems simply being on the wrong side of the road at VB is all it takes to warrant a scorn and punishment from your neighbor. I ask councillors to find a way to consider the opinions of all affected, and although I concede it is difficult to quantify, try to take into consideration those outside the community and try to balance that against a bunch of people in the community that don't come out to their seasonal cottages yet still want this ban. In fact, there's more than just residents outside the RM that will be heard here. Amazing trail systems we enjoy bring riders to the Birchwood, the Pine Falls, the South Beach, just to name a few. Not our concern, you might say, but I would submit that Victoria Beach, especially over the last decade or so, has earned a reputation for caring little about neighbors, and what high time we adopted policies in sync with those neighbors, especially when they have worked throughout this province for the benefit of all. Hearing and meeting broadcast, the council should check with police to see what level of enforcement they exhibit on this is wrong. Do not cast the buck and put that burden on them. Make the call that allows parents and kids, or any group of responsible friends, to enjoy some fresh air and scenery without being made to feel like a criminal. Councillor Axworthy claimed that the vast majority of constituents were in favor of this ban. This notion is flawed, as it appears to come from a quote found on the BPCOA website stating that they received around 100 emails from constituents, with 94% wanting to ban. You will now see exponentially more email and signatures from those disagreeing with this measure, and this will be from a much broader spectrum of constituents, meaning riders and non-riders alike who want to live and let live, rather than a special interest group, much smaller number, claiming the majority. And even if that were true, stripping somebody of their rights while hiding behind majority has always been inherently wrong. Be a good neighbor and live and let live. So my reasons against this bylaw: the bylaw displays an overt prejudice to those who have been practicing the sport they love in peaceful coexistence for 60 years or so. Number two, no tangible detriment brought forward to warrant harassing or canceling a fellow constituent. No stats, just plenty of theory and conjecture. Well, I reject theory and conjecture and offer 6 decades of safe use as statistical tangible proof. Overturning this bylaw would be the first step in mending our reputation as a kingdom of gates, restrictions, and division. This will lead to healthier businesses and higher property values. We all recall how property prices dropped after the weather bomb, and we all went to work with our neighbors. Let's not do it again. Finally, if you look at the snowdrifters, you'll quickly see they are most likely to be the same names we found volunteering with the fire department and the Green Navy. In short, their folks that show up to volunteer all year round. They make that sports club come for all of us. Sending them a message that we are stripping them of their freedoms can easily lead to bitterness and reluctance to cater to a community so quick to shut them when they are not bowing to this special interest group. And I conclude with that.
Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you, Graham. I'm not sure, can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, you can hear it?
Well, I just waited till I was waiting back to me.
Graham, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Graham? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear? All right. I was going to ask council if you have any questions, but I don't know how easy it will be to get through to Mr. Cameron.
Just call him.
Isn't that primitive technology?
All right. Sorry, our tech master has asked if we can take 5 minutes to try and clear up the technical difficulties. So it's almost 7:45, so 10 to 8.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
How are we doing? Okay, I guess. 2 up and 1 down. You're still standing. So you're doing okay. Nobody's throwing any cops. And I froze. Oh, is that right? It was horrible. Totally compromised. Of course, I couldn't see because on my screen I was still okay. And it was she was like, oh no, you froze.
When we walked to the back, it's like, oh, I can hold it.
One way and one
Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to have some of our technical difficulties worked out. Councillor Randall, Councillor Cunningham, can you come back to the table, please?
I'm quickly typing like someone's right? So,
All right, Mike, are you all right, Mike? All right, ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to take your seats again? Sorry about that. Appreciate your patience. We've got a little movement on the delegations. Up next is any abusive behavior, any threats to residents in this building will not be tolerated. I thought I made that clear at the outset. Threatening to punch someone in the face is not acceptable. Moving forward, Barb Canyon from the BB Snowdrifters is not available tonight. She's asking Rennie Degani to speak on her behalf, and I know Rennie is here, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. Good evening. I'm Rennie Degani. I'm a board member. I'm also a groomer and a member of Victoria Beach Snowdrifters, and also a full-time resident here in Victoria Beach. Just to give a little background, the Victoria Beach Snowdrifters is a non-profit snowmobile club that was established in 1964 in the RM of Victoria Beach. Some of our founding members include John Attia, Bert Trainer, Jack Johnson, Lauren Anderson, and Darrell Olson, just to name a few. We all know these names as pillars of our community, from being counselor for the RM to superintendent of public works. These individuals are not just a name on the street, but landowners, business people who supported and grew our community while raising the families here. From their hard work and dedication, they built a winter community, including some of the trails within the RM, which are currently walking or cross-country ski trails. These were originally built as snowmobile trails to provide an outing for families during the winter when the community slowed down from the busy summers. These families bundled up their children in sleighs with enough blankets to keep them warm and safe, and rode to Elk Islands. The only thing that trumped sledding to Elk Island was perhaps a good curling bonspiel. These strong community values are what our club is based on and what we are striving to replicate. Family, fun, and foremost, safety. How many people within the RM of Victoria Beach have packed up hot dogs or whatever and loaded up family and ridden their sled to Elk Island to our clubhouse for a campfire, just as Lauren Anderson and many others did once long before? How many people have enjoyed the Victoria Beach Snowdrifters Family Winter Carnival held every year at Elk Island? This was a huge part of the winter fun and is now being replicated at the Snow Much Fun Day. Who could throw the frozen fish the farthest? How many hot dogs could you eat? To honor the snowdrifters of the past, we continue their legacy by volunteering at such events as Snow Much Fun, cooking up and serving hot dogs, hot chocolate, and donating funds towards this event. Victoria Beach Snowdrifters have such great memories, and we want them to continue, not only for our founding members' families, but their children, and everyone else's families in our RM. As we evolve as a club, we are organized and administered by our governing body, the Snowman Inc. And to give you a little background, our footprint within the RM of Victoria Beach is very minimal. Just under 8 kilometers of groomed, insured trails come out of the RM of Victoria Beach. The remainder of over 100 kilometers is outside of RM. And let's be clear, we have no intention of expanding our footprint at all within the RM of VB. This community is a thoroughfare for snowman trails and not a destination. 99% of all our riders that you see within our RM are tax-paying residents and owners and business owners themselves. They only wish to access the nearest snowman trail from their place of residence. Our club takes pride in our transparency, inclusivity, and willingness to be environmentally aware and respectful of Indigenous peoples' lands. We have a membership of 193 strong, and we have the strength and capability to be involved in many aspects of our community. Being a snowmobile club is more than just grooming trails. It is working and supporting our community in many, many ways. Snowdrifters volunteer to work the country markets, serve food at the Firefighters Fish Fry, work behind the scenes at the Summer Winds Festival, cook hot dogs and serve food at Snow Much Fun Day. We make up hampers at Christmas time, and these are just a few. We just don't brand ourselves as Victoria Beach Snowdrifters. We're first and foremost community members. As I mentioned earlier, safety is our priority. We've held safe operation clinics in the past for off-road vehicles. Our intention this fall is to provide to all community members, not just snowdrifters, a survival clinic for anyone who finds himself in a negative situation, such as breaking through the ice while fishing or skiing on the lake, or lost or injured while enjoying the wilderness. The Snowmobile Club isn't just about fun, but also about being there when potential emergencies arise. When a cross-country skier went missing, the Victoria Beach Snowdrifters was summoned to go out at nightfall and to assist in locating that skier. When the blizzards occurred last year and there was a possibility for the need of assistance, again, the Victoria Beach Snowdrifters were placed on standby to assist. We are currently fundraising for a lightweight rescue sleigh just for these emergency purposes. It's not being purchased just for snowmobilers, but for anyone who requires rescuing. There is a perception that by having the ability to ride from your residence to the nearest approved snowmobile, that this would increase theft or vandalism. This, we believe, is just not true. By being more visible, theft and vandalism should decrease, as we won't be perceived as being a sleepy community, but alive with active people enjoying all the beauty that Victoria Beach offers during the winter. Some say that we should trailer our machines to a parking lot or a roadway within or outside of the RM. To trailer, if you do have one, most sledders have a large size vehicle or truck, and of course with a snowmobile trailer, this is going to be at least a 35 to 40 feet long vehicle that is now parked on a roadway or a highway, and it could block emergency vehicles, snow removal, and cause more of a hazard. It's also a lot less of a footprint than using the truck and trailer than just using a snowmobile. What is the main purpose of winter sport? People participate in winter sport purely for fun, recreation, and to bring people together in creating that community. Regardless of what sport that you participate in, we all enjoy the beauty of the nature that Victoria Beach has to offer. Bringing people together who enjoy a common interest promotes community spirit, but also brings responsibility. Our fundraising for the Ukrainian crisis raised over $1,800 for the people of Ukraine. We provided a great club ride for all those to enjoy. Fellowship and a wonderful complimentary meal was enjoyed after. From the time that the bylaw amendment was passed in 2021 until now, our club has not heard of any complaints or concerns regarding written warnings or citations being issued to riders who were gaining access to the trail system from their residences. Our community is certainly being divided by this bylaw, and we hope that an amendment to enable snowmobilers to access the nearest snowman-approved trail from their residence would help our community start to heal. Let's keep our Victoria Beach traditions that our community works so hard to build, family and fun, and keep snowmobiling alive and healthy for all the generations to come. Make snowmobiling not a story of the past, but an activity for all those to enjoy now and in the future. As a snowmobile club, we continue to work hard and being part of this community. Working with the Beaches Community Center, volunteering at community bonspiels, hosting Christmas parties, helping out whenever needed. When you're at the bonspiel, know that the ice was maintained by a Victoria Beach Snowdrifter. If you see a firefighter respond to a call, that firefighter could possibly be a Victoria Beach Snowdrifter, as we have members on that. Nurses, business leaders around the community, many of them are all Victoria Beach Snowdrifters. And we promote supporting local. So we ask that this council amend the bylaw to access to our trails to keep our club active and alive within Victoria Beach. Thank you for this opportunity to present and for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Brian. Very thoughtful presentation and a lot of very good information and suggestions, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Erwin, you had your hand up?
A quick question. Can you estimate what percentage of the membership of Snowdrifters are property owners in the rural municipality of Victoria Beach?
From the information I understand, it's just kind of off the top. We're probably 20 to 40 club members that live and own residences here in the area of Victoria Beach.
Thank you. Any other questions for Randy?
Just one note, under the statute 39.2, just because you brought up the emergencies issue, it says that the requirements respecting off-road vehicles for emergency use, B, is the action is basically allows for off-road vehicles to be used in emergency, if the action is necessary in the interest of the public or of safety, and the operator shall exercise due regard for safety, having regard to all the existing circumstances. So in this example that you gave, totally permissible under the bylaw and the statute, because the statute trumps the bylaw. So any emergency, ORVs are completely fine for all the examples that you gave.
So if we could craft a bylaw that would allow the snow drifters and any other snowmobile operator to be able to leave their cottage and go directly to the trails, enjoy the trails, and then come back and go directly back to their cottage, no joyriding around the community, would that be an acceptable solution?
Absolutely, sir. I believe that that is a common practice now. You don't hear of people just joyriding through the communities of our streets and avenues just to go look at Christmas lights and whatnot, or to vandalize cottages that aren't occupied.
I have heard that there have been some instances where cottage owners will have a party and a group of operators will come to their cottage. If this bylaw were changed, that practice would not be acceptable and would be subject to a fine.
Absolutely, and we would encourage that from our law enforcement personnel here. If you're going from outside, if you're not traveling from your residence to the closest trail and back, or to access fuel or from Safi's or whatever closest access point, then or if you're operating in an unsafe manner, you should be absolutely ticketed and held accountable, for sure.
Do you have an opinion on the suggested by one of the other speakers permit system? A permit system?
Well, I think my opinion on that, thank you for asking, is when an officer stops any vehicle, they know where you live. You have registration. Snowmobile has registration just as your vehicles have. So if I'm operating my snowmobile through the RA restricted area, well, they obviously know I don't live there. I live in an area outside. So if I'm stopped, I would be ticketed as anybody else would be. So I don't think having a permit system or a sticker is the right option. I think that you would just be accountable that you're allowed to go from the closest point, from your residence to the closest point to access the trail.
All right, so that permits, in your point of view, would be redundant.
Well, and just to add to that as well, so lots of cottages are for rent, many of them in the restricted side. So now what do you do when somebody rents their cottage out in the restricted side or any place else, and now they have to have a sticker? They show up Friday night for a weekend of snowmobiling and fun, and now they gotta organize and get a sticker so they can travel safely or within the law. I think it just causes more issues than not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it should get some consideration, and I appreciate what you're saying, but we're trying to find a way to make it easier for our law enforcement personnel to enforce the law. And a visible sticker might help. Not sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and I, that's didn't have much time to actually formulate too much of a response, but absolutely, it is an option, and it's something that could be considered.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Rennie. Great questions, great answers. All right, we will move on to thank you. We will move on to Dr. Paul Cooley, please. Travel time is not included in your 10 minutes.
Thank you, Council. Nice to see you all. Just thank you for your time.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for your time and attention. I'm in opposition to bylaw 1614. And a little bit about us and our family and observations that we've had, both from a personal and a professional side. My wife and I, Kathy, have been out here living full-time for 2 years, but my family and 3 generations of us have been out here since the early 70s. 5 of us outside the restricted area, 3 in. So we've seen some things happen for a long time. And I'm hoping to provide some insight based on that. I also run an environmental research company from within the RM. So I'd like to start actually by thanking, in particular, the last 2 councils for what I actually believe is exceptional work. And coming here and talking to you for the first time in opposition isn't how I want to come across, because I actually think you guys are doing a very good job. And I've listened to be open. My parents' generation complained about the leadership out here my entire childhood.
Speak louder, please.
I listened to my parents' generation speak, having harsh words about leadership out here through my whole childhood. So you guys are doing a lot of good work here. One example of that is about a year or so there was some new regulations that came out, and the neighborhood was talking about this 77-page document. I sat down and read it and finished it and thought it was completely reasonable. It looked at differences inside the restricted area and compared those to differences outside the restricted area. And I sat back a little bit surprised that I wasn't irritated in some way or another. Honestly, I was surprised. It was a very good document and it was fair. And I realized really the approach I believe that you were taking was the minimum amount of change with the maximum amount of benefit. And that's what I walked away from. So I want to say thanks for that, and also thanks for taking our water bill, which we overpaid for 12 years prior to the council before last. And you guys took a cease and desist email, but you guys were now paying like everybody else. And I got to put a shout out to the snow removal crews out here. They did a great job, so thanks for that. So we know that our community here has diverse interests, and I believe an ORB bylaw that is pan-municipality and is restricted year-round. To me, it doesn't follow the logic that identifies what the source of the problem is, or if there's a niche interest group that perceives a problem that really doesn't merit regulation of this level. I'm a snowmobiler, so I don't have off-road vehicles in the summer months, but when I listen to people talk about this issue, I understand that there's one way on the island and one way off the island through the ABBV trail, and now that there's a gate on it. And the only thing I'll offer here is that if we track ORVs on the island, in the RM, doesn't it make sense that repetitive noise violations are likely to remain in the RM? So I'm not one of that community, but that's my one thought on it. There's also uncertainty about the southern extent of the RM. If the boundary is located in the south ditch of Sappy Road, I have a friend in the RM at Alexander that cannot leave his property legally with an ORV. He can't get off the road. So we don't know where the boundary actually is. In the winter, local snowmobilers, we seek access to the lake. It's already been said that the restricted area is not a destination for us. It's a bunch of 90-degree angles. It's not an enjoyable ride. And so, as our island basically has cliffs or rocky shores, roads are really the only way to access the lake. The restricted area, or ice fish and travel about 450 meters down Hampton Road to access the ice. And so our island is really not a destination for snowmobiles. On the professional side, I'm a scientist that studies lake ice hazards in the RM, on the ice here, using satellite data since 2018. Bylaw 1614 is directly affecting my company's ability to complete a contribution agreement with the Canadian Space Agency. So I'm hereby requesting a permit so that I can access the lake with my equipment to complete the work that I'm under contractual agreement for. I respect the wishes of everybody in the municipality, and I can only really speak for myself. But to me, this is really much ado about nothing. I respect the wishes of the Victoria Beach Cottage Owners Association, and if it really is the balance of the population in the restricted area that wants to close it down, I'm certainly not in opposition to that. But I don't see something working throughout the entire RM. Inside the RA, if you buy a property there, similar regulations already exist in the summer. However, for those that snowmobile from within the restricted area, we would need discretion by the police to allow them to egress at the nearest place, and recognize though, if you have an ice guy handy, that the ice changes year to year. The closest spot this year may not be accessible in a year coming, because the rough ice moves in. And of course, this is the same discretion that would be required to let the snow drifters and the snowman trails, all those sleds that move through the island, cross at least a half a dozen roads as they go north to south on the island. So as it stands right now, snowmobile riders from the outside of the RM can travel more freely on our island than can the people that live here. I can't get to the highway. So bylaw 1614 places an enforcement bias on permanent residents that ride. Bylaw 1614, in my view, has confused the community about long-standing outdoor practices in what is a recreational space. Bylaw 1614, and this is the one that upsets me most, I think, has set up the conditions, unfortunately, for an adversarial relationship with law enforcement. Nobody wants that. I mean, goodness, I need help from the police. I've got a neighbor who rents his house out and they're shooting firearms off towards my house. I mean, I want a good relationship with the police. And this is the owner and his son and his teenage friends. So one way we could start is by not parking the police ORV in front of lake access points to make the point. Let's raise our game a little and let's play nice. So in conclusion, bylaw 1614, in my view, should be amended and simplified so that it's clear to all that it cannot restrict the successful operation of businesses, the conduct of research, and the recreational activities that are healthy for the community, the body, and the mind.
Thank you. Another great presentation. Thank you, Dr. Cooley. I just want to say that the municipal council has no control, nor can we direct how the police choose to enforce our bylaws.
Of course.
They are our bylaws, yes, but we can't tell the police how to enforce them.
I was actually speaking with the police officer here earlier.
Yeah.
If I didn't see one, I wasn't going to talk about that.
He's still here. He's still here. And I do think our police are doing a great job. I know this has caused a lot of angst and division in the community, and for that
It was just the office.
is unfortunate.
Yeah, it was just the office.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Cooley?
I just want to say one thing, having the police force that we do and the job that they're doing, it forces us to create better bylaws. And I don't know what else to say. So that's it.
Dr. Cooley, I didn't quite understand your comment about noise and traveling along the AB to VP trail. Could you expand that a little bit? Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, that's the part I know least about, of course, because I don't run a quad or a bike or anything. But I understood from the conversation a bunch of us met on Sunday, and that the ABVB trail now has a gate on it. And so if you don't give the riders a place to legally leave the island, well, they're going to stay on the island and drive in circles. And that's when we have quads riding in our neighborhood. What it tends to be, in my experience, is your neighbor's guests' children going around and around. But for other riders that are older, if you give them a way to come and go from the island, they're going past everybody only twice.
My understanding,
instead of repetitiously, that's all.
My understanding now is the ABVB gates are open.
And this was just for quads and stuff, though. I understand they're
Yeah,
closed in the summer.
the
is that right?
intention was they were to be closed in summertime to restrict access by the quads to the AV to BB trail.
Yeah, I would argue that you should let them out, so they can go elsewhere. Like, the riding is better to the south.
Can I just ask a question? Are you suggesting that we change the bylaw to open up year-round to ATVs and snowmobiles, or just snowmobiles? in the winter?
I see no need for gates.
So you're suggesting to allow ATVs in the summertime? Or just use the road? Or just snowmobiles in the winter? That's all I want.
I think what's going to unfold is we're going to have the egress ingress discussion further and see where that takes us. And if we do go down that road, if that's a bylaw that's in the municipality, it takes the pleasure of coming here to drive away. If you're not from the local area. I mean, this is the thing, like I said, I was talking about this because I'm not a fan of the gates. The optics are poor. And I don't think they do what people might want them to.
There have been large boulders in place of the gates for a number of years that require heavy equipment to move. They're not obviously as flexible boulders as the gates. The gates can be opened by emergency personnel, public works, so they are safer in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
They are in use in other parks and in other municipalities and along the Trans-Canada Trail. Just to let you know why the gates are there. And they are open this time of year on the ABB Trail.
So why do they close in the summer though?
We have an agreement with the Trans-Canada Trails who supported the trail, the ABB Trail, and they are trying to get away from off-road vehicles on the trails. So that was the agreement we made with them, that we would close the trail from May long weekend to Thanksgiving to ORVs, so that pedestrians, walkers, cyclists, horse riders.
I was going to drop this bullet, but I didn't, and I guess I should have.
That's quite all right, I'm glad you asked. Mr. Steve?
So two things. First of all, if we open up that trail to all ORVs, we lose all grant opportunities in the future, period.
Sorry, I missed that.
If we open up that trail and remove those gates, then we lose all possibility of ever getting a grant for the TCT to do any repairs along that trail.
Okay.
So that was one of the reasons why this exploded the first time. The second thing is I'm very confused as to the comment that you made about how 1614 allows owners outside the RM to have greater access in the RM. Because as per the map that pretty much everybody in here should be able to see, because I put the bylaw over there, there is only one way in, one way out. And the reason why we chose that green line was because that then allows you to access the community center. So everybody, like, somebody outside the RM cannot go joyriding inside of the island or Albert Beach or anywhere. That's the reason why that's there. So I don't understand how somebody from outside can have greater access in here.
Yeah, I didn't have opportunity to see your map prior when I was writing this stuff. So the assumption that I had in this is that the Snowman Trail that I believe goes straight through north to south along PTH 59 and 504 is legal access, right? And of course, I'm 400 meters from that, but I can't get on that. So people that are coming from Bel Air can get to Elk Island, but I can't even get to the highway.
Correct. Okay, now I see where, now I understand. I want to address your Safi Road comment as well. Safi Road, the majority of Safi Road is in the arm of Victoria Beach, but it is also an inter-municipal road. For instance, the arm of Alexander, I know Mayor Briscoe's here. The arm of Alexander helps maintain it from time to time. So it is technically in our municipality, but it is an inter-municipal road. So I'm not sure where the jurisdiction actually lies.
Yeah.
And there are no ditches, on Safi Road, right? So, not safe ones.
Right, and all I was trying to do was tease out that people are a little bit confused as to what the status is there. And we have an attendee here tonight that it directly affects, and he's wondering, like, can I leave my yard on the south side of the road legally, or am I breaking the law?
ORVs and snowmobiles are allowed to cross a road. It's my understanding from the ORV Act.
It's on Safi, it's not part of the trail currently, so I think your friend is landlocked, so to speak.
Yeah.
You can't get to the legal trail. the cabin is in the same position at the end of Albert Beach. down by the pool. It's 100 yards from my cottage to the trail, but I can't get there.
So it's shared, I'm just trying to tease this part again. So it's shared, but not half and half? North and south?
That whole issue is still up for grabs.
Yeah.
We got an opinion from the province saying if we want to push it, we would have to launch a legal action.
We just need to have an arrangement with Yarm of Alexander, but we've been working cooperatively with them for a number of years on Saffy Road.
Could I just ask our police force how they're interpreting our bylaw and the police board? Currently on Saffy Road, on the south side? Okay, the police board, you're the police board chief, I was just wondering how they're enforcing. Are they enforcing the south side as well, like the whole road is our bylaw, or are they just taking the north side of the road?
The police board does not, just like council, we don't direct the police how they enforce bylaws and laws.
Audie, would you ticket somebody if they were on the south side of Saffy Road? According to what your police chief is asking you to do?
Well, the way we're looking at it right now is that all of Saffy Road, the way the bylaw reads, is not accessible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Audie.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Paul. All right, another great presentation, thank you. Mr. Perrin, you are up next, Luke Perrin.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Luke Perrin. I am a cottage owner in Albert Beach. My family and I snowmobile and quad regularly, and it's become a family activity for the past 30 years, which is important to our cottage life and a reason we've owned a cottage in EB all these years. We feel it's our right and privilege to ride and enjoy cottage life to its full potential, which includes accessing various trails throughout VRM of Alexander and VB like everyone else. We now feel we are being infringed upon and can no longer enjoy the same cottage life as we have been. 2 weeks ago, we were stopped by the VB police on Saffy Road and told that we had to trailer our 3 snowmobiles to the nearest staging area, which is the parking lot on Pitt Road. This made totally no sense to us. Our cottage is 200 feet from Saffy Road. We would normally access Snowman Trail 50 via Gerard, but the entrance has been blocked off with gates, police stake, and barricades to prevent access to the beach. I started an online petition 2 weeks ago. This was done to get a sense of what other people thought of bylaw 1641. We received over 1,500 signatures from supporters who agree there needs to be an amendment to this bylaw to access our trail systems. I realize the online petition does not conform with the Municipal Act, but it has drawn significant attention and proven that many others have the same sentiments as myself and my family. This is strictly an accessibility issue for the safest and most direct route to the Snowman Groomed and ATV Manitoba Trail System. I want to make it clear that I'd like to make clear that there is absolutely no desire to ride on avenues or roads. Absolutely none. This is clearly misinformation. Not only has this bylaw burdened snowmobilers and winter enthusiasts, but it has affected local businesses that rely on these enthusiasts to keep them afloat during the off-season. We contribute greatly to the local businesses throughout the East Beaches, and not only Saffy's. Council, please listen to the members of our community and give us a reasonable and enforceable bylaw that allows for the safe and respectful egress, regress to snowman and ATV Manitoba trail systems that are cherished by many in this community. Thank you. I have a copy of the bylaw. If you would accept it, I could submit it. If not, it's your call.
The bylaw or the petition?
The petition of bylaw 1614. If you want to accept it, I'll hand it to you.
You can hand it to our CAO and he'll determine whether it meets any standards. But
Thank you.
Thank you for a great presentation. Any comments for Mr. Perrin? Steve?
Of the, what was it, 17 or 1,500, sorry, 2,500 signatures. 1,533 signatures.
Yeah.
How many of those are from Victoria Beach?
Well, there's quite a few. I highlighted them. Also, a lot of people have put Winnipeg as their address. I recognize a lot of names, but I don't have the beach addresses. So nothing was stipulated. It was just a general petition that I put out there to see if anybody even would even look at it. And it's had a lot of people look at it.
All right, thank you. Erwin?
During the 20-odd years you've operated snowmobiles and ATVs, have you ever, or any member of your family, ever been stopped for a violation?
No, never. And we've had Sea-Doos, we've had boats. I participate actively with my two sons. They were always taught about safety, care on the road. We've never had any issues, and we've never been pulled over by police.
Thank you. Any other questions? Steve?
I just want to go back to, you say that it was your right to access the trails.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the act.
Well, our right now is we're boxed in. That's the big thing. We're boxed in. We can't. Let me finish. Let me talk. We're boxed in where we can't access the trail system. So if you're familiar with the trail system, there's the trail, Snowman Trail number 50 that runs along the lake, and there's 703 on Pitt Road. That's where you can cross. And there's 246. Why I say is my right is this, is because I pay taxes here. I pay taxes just like anybody who cycles on the highway in the middle of the highway, or people who kayak or jog. I have just as much right to enjoy my cottage life.
Right. Joseph, very quick. I want to ask you to read it. I'll just read it aloud. This is from the Act, of which all ORV owners, including snowmobilers, are governed by. So this would be before any bylaw is written. Except as may be authorized under another provision of this Act, under the regulations, no person shall operate an off-road vehicle upon or access a roadway or the shoulder thereof, or on a sidewalk. If you look at the top, it says it was ascended in 1987. This is the Off-Road Vehicle Act. And I have an email from the Policy and Legislation Unit from Manitoba. I'm going to quote this. An off-road vehicle may cross a provincial road, provided the conditions under the ORV Act are met, but it may not cross a municipal road if the municipality has prohibited crossing their roads under a bylaw. If there is no bylaw permitting travel on a municipal road, then travel is prohibited. So I accept the fact that you say that you have that right, sir, but under the Act, prior to any bylaw that this council has ever passed, you did not.
No, I disagree with you. That could be the bylaw, but that's not fair to people who are paying taxes and using this area. That's why bylaws get amended.
Thank you. Lon?
This is a really tough situation. There's acts in place and there's municipal bylaws. And there's one line there, Steve, I'm sorry, I gotta throw you in the bus, or you didn't read it. Bring it back up there, please. No, the other one. Yeah, I read it. Sorry, I'm not. And the municipality has prohibited crossing their roads under a bylaw. And the sentence right after that, it says, further, a municipality may make a bylaw allowing off-road vehicles to travel on their roads for parts thereof. Okay.
That's fine, we did not. I'm sorry. No, I understand. What I'm saying is that you, sir, came in here and you said that you had the right to access this since you were born, essentially. What I'm saying is that this statute, this provincial statute, which predates any of the bylaws that this council has ever passed,
I respect that, but I disagree with it.
Our bylaws previous to that did not allow for travel on the trails except for the 1511, I think, unless I'm mistaken on that. But if we don't have a bylaw, you are not allowed on those trails. That is not your right. You are not allowed on municipal roads. That was not your right. We passed bylaws. At one point, we did allow snowmobiles. This has been here for 2 years. And under this act, you do not have that right, under statute. And then we also put the bylaw in place. And it was not your right.
Well, I've been here for 30 years snowmobiling and never had a problem.
Just to comment, the problem we have here is that there is a separation between the Off-Road Vehicle Act as it's written and as it has been enforced over the last 30 years, or maybe more, since it was put in place. And sometimes, the law will say, well, if you allow the law to be bent for an extended period of time, you're in fact accepting that precedent. So it is a messy situation. I had a career in commercial insurance. My Auto Pack outlet sold thousands of policies. We were very concerned about safety, and I think what needs to happen within this municipality is there needs to be a balanced, segregated, regionalized approach to having a bylaw, and then allow our police to enforce it.
Exactly, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perrin. Up next is Jerry Barassa from Safi Storking.
So, can you... Well, hello everyone, and thank you for coming tonight. Hello to council. My name is Jerry Barassa. Lise and I have owned and operated Safi's General Store for the last 16 years, 17 years actually. I literally had a nice big presentation tonight. When I went through it earlier today, I was going beyond 30 minutes, and I said, okay, that's not going to fly. So I decided to can the whole thing. I'm going to wing it. Okay, and hopefully I'll get this all in. I want to try and cover 4 things: why we're here at Safi Store tonight, what we see the problem is, okay, how it's affecting us at Safi's as well as the community, and what our solution is. Okay, first, why we're here. I was a few weeks ago with this lovely human being over here, halfway around the world, visiting a place where we met. And we received an email from the Snowdrifters, and they were advising us that they were having to take all our signs down, they were removing us from the registry because they were greatly concerned about their membership being cited if they went to Albert Beach and Safi Store. That was a surprise, and that's the first time that's happened since we've had the store. And so we decided to shut it off. We were trying to enjoy ourselves. And as soon as we returned, we were reminded very quickly about it. As Safi store was effectively quarantined, we had the VB police going up and down Safi Road, up and down Gerard Street, chasing snowmobilers. We had the gate closed at the end of Gerard Street. Not the welcoming impression we've been trying to build for so many years. It was very disappointing to see. Obviously, the first thing we did is we made some phone calls. We spoke with Penny. Penny more or less, was sympathetic. You didn't want to see people being blocked from going to Safi Road. However, you also wanted the police to enforce the bylaw. I spoke with Jack Briscoe, I think is here tonight, from the Arm of Alexander, and asked Jack what he knew about this and how he felt about it. And he kind of felt like I did. He was not very supportive of what was going on. I then decided to call, three, I think, well-respected, long-standing members of this community. I'm talking about Kevin Tia, who's going to speak after me, Stuart McPherson, who's been dealing with these issues for years and years here, and I think quite effectively. He's well-respected. Gordon Kay, who was on council here for quite a while, who has an RCMP background. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. I really wanted to get a feel for this. Interestingly, the last three mentioned, and I'm sure Jack would probably join that group, they all felt that this bylaw that everyone is saying is necessary is completely unnecessary. And the reason they feel it was unnecessary is because they felt that the Provincial Highway Traffic Act gave enough leeway and discretion to law enforcement that this should not be a problem. I find it really interesting that people this amount, we're talking about a lot of years of experience on council, a lot of years of experience with law enforcement, telling us that this is something that's not necessary. They don't know why we've gone there. Interestingly, at our meeting we just had on Sunday, which was a very informative meeting, we learned a lot. And thankfully Mike was there. And Mike was on council when 1614 was passed. And more or less he said, we passed this thing, but we knew it was far from perfect, and we knew we'd have to revisit it. Well, we're here tonight, and it looks like it's being revisited because it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because we've got a lot of upset people. When I say a lot, we have a legal petition, tried really hard to make sure it's legal, of easily over 300 people in the Algonquin region, and way more than that outside of the Algonquin region. The reason why we separated the two because at Safi's we have easily half, if not more, of our customers. What would you say? It's more outside the Algonquin? It's probably half-half. So, and we also have people right across the street who are in the of Alexander, and they are effectively cut off from us. In fact, we have a guy who lives almost across the street. Almost across the street, and he would have to trailer his machines because he's got all of them, and drive them across the street just to gas up at Safi. So, obviously, we've got a problem. I said I was going to talk about what the problem is. I think it's clear the problem is the bylaw. I personally am not here tonight to suggest how to fix the bylaw. In fact, our petition talks about amending the bylaw, replacing the bylaw, saying bye-bye to the bylaw. But it seems like there's a lot of support for the last as well. But whatever council decides to do, what's important to us is that you do something to fix this insane problem. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think the fact that we are quarantined from our community, if they choose to use an off-road vehicle, that makes a big difference to us because we have a lot of snowmobile traffic in the winter, and we have more than that as far as quads in the summer. So this has a big impact. How is it affecting us? Well, you know, having started many years ago, we spent many years losing money. And absolutely, we lost money in the off-season. And thank God, with the incredible support of this community and the cottagers, we were able to get back to even for years in the summer. You know, things have changed, and we finally are getting ourselves to where we're able to hang on to really valuable employees on a year-round basis. If we can't do that, if we can't pay salaries for the whole year, these people have to live, they're going to go elsewhere. Pretty much back to say they're going to go find employment elsewhere. We don't want to lose them. They're fantastic employees. Everyone here knows them, and they do a great job. So it's really important for us to be able to hang on to these people. As we've grown over the years, we've been able to do that. As we've grown over the years, we've also developed enough scale as a business to where we've been able to do the Victoria Beach store. Okay? You know, that's not an easy thing to do. We ramp up really fast. We use all our resources, all of our connections with the suppliers. There's a lot of strings being pulled to make that happen. And we've got this great staff that we didn't have to let go to be able to staff these stores. And I'm talking, you know, there's the Victoria Beach store. There's another store, which I'm sure some of you may know of. We started a few years ago, the campground store in Grand Beach Provincial Park. The ability to do this is only because Safi's has become a viable entity on a year-round basis. We feed a lot of people at our restaurant right across the street from Safi's. Again, that restaurant benefits huge from, we do it questions afterwards or during?
1 minute, yes, to warn.
Oh, I have 1 minute, thank you. Okay. Wow. See, that's the problem with getting off on tangents, not having a script. Okay. So, how is it affecting us? This is affecting us, and I don't think it's anybody's intention here. I really feel strong support from everybody. There's nobody here I feel doesn't support us. I'm telling you, this is going to disrupt the apple cart. And I think it's a bad move, both in the winter with the snowmobiles and in the summer with the quads. You can't be quarantined in there, okay? Our solution, I'll take part of that back, thank you. Our solution to this, okay, are the petitions that we've had signed. And I think I just mentioned to you how many signatures we had. It's very clear on these petitions that we need a change. We want to go back. I'm going to say, this is oversimplification. We want to go back to where we were. Now, how we get there and how you do it's obviously something that you're better at than I am, okay? One last thing, I also have a little letter here. This is from the Birchwood Hotel, from Kyle at the Birchwood. I have this letter because they also are seeing a fall off in their traffic because the message is being sent throughout the snowmobile organizations, don't come here. We don't want you. Seriously, we're going to pull you over and ticket you. It's having an impact even at the Birchwood, which is well within the RM of Alexander. So he's got a letter here explaining that to you. And also, I'll just end. I think it's real important for us not to send out a message to to Winnipeg and Manitoba that we are, you know, we're anti-ORV or we're anti-outdoor recreation. So I'll end with this because I know I'm over. Thank you for hearing me. And I'll list you.
Thank you. Another great presentation. Are there any questions for Mr. Barraza?
Are you okay with me talking? I don't mean to take over here. Just to let everybody know, if council decides to rescind this bylaw and have no bylaw at all, the ORV Act does take precedent over everything, and the police will have to enforce the ORV Act, which you cannot be on the road anywhere, but you can be in the ditches. That's what the ORV Act states. So if we have, sorry, what was your question?
No, I just, you know what, I'll tell you, I am, first of all, I don't ride a snowmobile, I cross-country ski, I don't use a quad, I ride my bicycle, so I'm not the expert on the subject.
It's more of an information, that's all.
Right, I
So
understand.
the council will need to make a bylaw to allow snowmobiles and ATVs on our roads and in our ditches.
I understand.
And they can specify the time, they can specify where, they can specify that, just information.
No, I understand, but however, that said, you know, I mentioned Kevin, who's there. I mentioned Stuart McPherson, I mentioned Gordon Kay. They're all saying, best thing you could do, get rid of the bylaw. In fact, there's other people too.
Then you still can't be on the roads. That's not gonna help you out.
You know what, I don't think, that's not how they're reading it. You know, Stuart was here for a
I
long
can't
time.
speak to police, okay, I really don't want, because the police choose not to enforce laws, I'm not saying that's what happened or not, but our police are actively enforcing bylaws and ORV Act and legislation. I'm not sure when the ORV Act came into play. If anybody can help me with that one, I don't have the dates in mind. So I think, you know, you like the way it was back, sorry, I don't mean to be argumentative, but we like the way it was back in the 70s because I think we could pretty much do anything we wanted back then. That was only 3. So we have to work within today's legislation as a council, as a government. Come up with something.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to tell you guys how to do it. We're just saying we need to get it done.
And that's what we're here to listen to and to try and work something out.
Exactly. If it doesn't work, let's fix it.
But there will have to be a bylaw. Or else you're stuck with the ORV Act, which is much more restrictive. Thank you. Jerry, sorry, we've got a question for you.
So in 2001, I'm assuming that you guys were aware that we were discussing this bylaw, sorry, 2021, that we were discussing this bylaw as well as the ones before this, yes?
You know, I'm not sure when in 2021 you were discussing it, but I will tell you that I would say at least half the year, we're going 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hours a day, and I was not aware of it. I will say this, if I had the slightest inkling that we were going to be quarantined, I guarantee you we would have been very up to speed on this, and we would have been involved. So it came as a real surprise to us.
So first reading was the 2nd day of February, and third reading was the 16th day of February. But up until that point, we had spent, what, 2 years discussing all of this?
The previous bylaw, 1582, we spent eight or 9 months discussing.
Yeah, at which point we did actually have communications with SAFIs. But, so from 2021, this map, and I already put it up there previously, and everybody in this room should have a copy or be able to see it quite easily, was put out. There's nothing hidden here, okay? Now, council received a couple of emails saying that we had deceived people, that this was sprung up on them. Again, 2021, this debate went on for at least 2 years, and this bylaw here has been in place for 2 years. You say that ORVs are a big part of your business. I can understand that. We haven't heard anything up until now, and so my assumption, and from what I'm hearing from you, is that you're under the assumption that the police were going to continue to ignore the ORVs and just simply allow them down the road. Is that correct?
Steve, honestly, I wasn't aware there was something for the police to ignore. I don't think Lee's, you know, Lee's probably has, I spend a lot of time in an office. Lee, you probably have your finger on the grapevine more than I do, but other than somebody did contact you once and asked you how you felt about it, and you were very positive about keeping the ORV traffic coming through Saffings. That was basically, I think, your response. The only imp we had, we just were not aware this was going on, and I don't think we were alone in that. I think there was quite a few people who said the same thing. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Steve. I'm just saying from our side, we weren't aware. And we're involved with a lot of stuff, and we just missed it.
The last thing, and I just want to put this out here real quick, is that, so you didn't know about the bylaws. It's been up there since 2021, so that's okay. There's a map that shows where you can and can't go, and Saffings is very clearly on the map. So just hear me, I understand the purpose, but can you please tell me what the intention of, or the desire that you had in terms of advertising the Snowman? What was the desire from Saffings?
Okay, well, going back to when we first started, I used to go out on the trails myself and put up all kinds of signs on the trails. Obviously, we wanted to let the snowmobilers know that there was fuel and there was food at Saffings. And the way we looked at it is there were people on that North Star Trail, they were coming north, and maybe they were going right through Albert Beach, out onto the lake, and all the way to Gilmore. You know, so we were like a pit stop along the way. We wanted to know we were there, because we're hidden, as you know, we're not out on Highway, 59 or whatever, so.
And now Snowman and other groups are telling them not to come here. Victoria Beach is not. We're not telling them not to go to the Birchwood and all the rest of that. The police are enforcing the bylaw. The police are enforcing the statute. So while Victoria Beach is not saying don't come here, the police are just simply enforcing the bylaw and the statute. That's it.
But Steve, what that does is it sends the message that, I understand.
Thank you, Jerry. Are there any further questions? Thank you for your comments and responses. Thank you very much. We did move the order around a little bit. Sean Taylor asked to speak after Jerry. You're going to present at the next meeting, okay, thank you. So up next is Kevin Attia, please.
Thank you, Reeve Council. So anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Kevin Attia. I've got the job of sharing a little bit of history on snowmobiling in Victoria Beach. I'm going to sound kind of repetitive here because most of this has been covered, but I'll start off by snowmobiling came about in Victoria Beach in 1964 when Fred David and Jack Johnson bought what was then current new snowmobiles, Polaris Colts. Over the next few years, many other families bought snowmobiles. Shortly thereafter, the Snowdrifter Club was formed. Meetings were held at members' homes. Soon a clubhouse was established at Elk Island using an old abandoned log cabin. Many fun family outings were enjoyed there. Many years the club sponsored the annual trip to Heckler Resort. Those trips still mark some of the most fun I've ever had. Fast forward 60 years, and here we have the Snowdrifters as a thriving club. I think that attests to how much snowmobiling has been enjoyed here over the last 60 years. My experience from 37 years of cottage and property checks. Over the years, I operated a cottage and property check business. I would, 1 or 2 days a week, use my snowmobile in the arm of Victoria Beach. Seldom, if never, did I ever meet another snowmobile in there. You would see them from time to time in people's yards, as cottagers do own snowmobiles. But the point I'm getting at here is people aren't interested in snowmobiling in the RMA or the vehicle restricted area. It's, people don't go out and buy snowmobiles to ride on streets. They buy them to go out and enjoy trails, get onto the lake, just generally go out and have some fun in the winter. For 15 years I was on that side of the fence doing what you guys are doing. I experienced many complaints from people over the years, but having said that, in 15 years I never heard anybody complain about snowmobiling. Over the COVID years, like in 2021, I saw a lot of folks spend a lot more time out here at the lake. Was that part of the reason council felt the need to create a bylaw for snowmobiles? If so, why? You've just recently talked about working on this bylaw for the last 2 or 3 years before, or for 2 years or so before you put it in place, but it almost sounds like the bylaw is maybe something that's saving us as snowmobilers, when in fact, for years previous to this bylaw, we all got by just fine. We could all travel where we wanted to travel, abide by the rules of the road, and stop where we needed for fuel. I had reason to go to Beausejour 3 or 4 times 2 weeks ago with one of our animals to the vet. Each time I was there, I noticed snowmobiles driving along the main drag down to the co-op where they fuel up. How do these towns and villages get by without bylaws? Because it sounds to me like most of them just go by the Highway Traffic Act, which I believe would allow for egress and access, or egress and regress from fuel stations and restaurants in these towns. You see it in Gimli, you see it in Riverton. I was recently in Hecla Island, and every place you go, you see snowmobiles, and they're allowed. Here, I went out last Friday night for a snowmobile ride, stopped at the curling rink, and it looked like I was some type of a criminal because I was stopping in the local curling club to watch some curling. Yeah, why have things gotten to this point? Use of the bylaw is simply use of a bylaw is simply micromanaging the rule. This bylaw should be removed and go back to what the Highway Traffic Act allows for. Highway Traffic Act regarding the use of snowmobiles on roadways is quite clear. Although I'd say it's not as clear as I thought, but what I was reading is that it allowed the use of a snowmobile that stayed to the far right of the road on its way to fuel up using a road to get there. Victoria Beach has its own police service, trained, experienced police officers. Remove the bylaw and let them do their jobs. If council feels concerned about the use of snowmobiles in the VRA, surely Victoria Beach can be asked to instruct random users that this is not a trail system and use the roadways, and use of the roadways is not allowed. Though exemptions must be allowed for regress and egress of cottage owners using their snowmobiles. As far as ORVs or ATVs, I own one, but I use it basically for work on my property, and I own another property just off 59 Highway. And so going from one to the other usually entails running up a tier road and going down 3 driveways to the other property. Anytime I do that, you feel like you're a criminal. And yet I can take my garden tractor and drive it the same place and nobody bothers me. And yet one is a licensed plated vehicle and the other is not. I'm just thinking that in order to get people feeling a little bit better about what's going on here with ATVs, council has seriously got to have a look at changing some of the rules they have in place. And again, as far as vehicles in the snowmobiles in the vehicle restriction area, nobody's interested in that. Nobody's interested in riding in there. Thank you.
Just for the record, when you were on council, you passed bylaw 1511, which is an ORV bylaw. Yes. Bylaw 1511 was passed in February 2009, signed by Bill McDonald and Raymond Morrow. So there was a bylaw in 1511, but it did exempt. It exempted snowmobiles. Even though you look in the ORV Act, and the ORV Act strictly says snowmobiles are ORVs. So we went from bylaw 1511 to bylaw 1582, which was discussed for about 9 months, many debates, many presentations, many letters, many phone calls. And then we went to bylaw 1614. But as we mentioned in the previous presentation, if we don't have a bylaw, we have to go by the ORV Act, which is way more stringent than any bylaw we could design. But we can, Kevin, we can amend our bylaw. We have the authority to allow ORVs on our roads, and that's what maybe Beausejour has done. Pinawa has a similar solution. I'm not sure about Gimli, but you're right, there are others. But that requires council to amend the bylaw to allow ORVs. Where do we allow them? We're hearing from residents in every area of the municipality, it's not just the vehicle restricted area, that they don't want ORVs. They don't want snowmobiles. And then we're also hearing that from areas, residents in the same area, that they do want snowmobiles, that they do want ORVs, but they don't want them on their roads. So, you know, that's why we're here, and that's why I honestly, truly appreciate what everybody's saying today, and we are hearing it, and we are listening, but we have to find some kind of a balance to make sure everyone enjoys their cottage life, whether they want it to be quiet, or whether they want it to be with their snowmobiles and ORVs. So.
How did we do it for so many years up to this point?
I agree. How did we do it for so many years?
We did this. What?
I think there was some more lenient enforcement, perhaps.
I said earlier I never heard a complaint from anybody about a snowmobile in 15 years.
Okay, I believe you. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't changed. So, but that also doesn't mean it can't change again. Right?
Okay.
So we are listening, we are hearing, and we've had some compelling arguments tonight and some compelling comments. So we are taking them into serious consideration, and I appreciate that.
You don't have to come back to the door. I just wanted to clarify because it's been mentioned twice. ORVs are governed, yes, there is some inside of the Highway Traffic Act, but they're governed ultimately by the ORV Act. So as Penny was alluding to, if we get rid of the bylaw, it gets way more stringent. It means no trails, no AV to BV trails, no
I
nothing.
can't see how it could get any stricter than it is right now.
It wouldn't allow them anywhere, period.
How did it happen?
That'd be a conversation for the previous police chief and not council, because they were the ones who were, enforcing or not.
To be fair, all of our police have done what they feel are in the best interests of the residents and the situation at the time. I do not intend or intentionally wish to knock our police. We've been very fortunate to have amazing police officers in this community for years.
Council is listening. Somehow, some way, we're going to work out a reasonable solution, I hope.
All right, we have one more presentation, and it will be virtual. It's a video that has been pre-recorded, so I hope you can hear it. And then we will take a break before we carry on with the council meeting.
Patty Ulrich and Matt Metcalf here. Thank you to the council for allowing this format. Council, if you choose to speak to any of the points after this presentation for the benefit of the audience or those watching the recording, I certainly encourage you to do so. As one of the original families of BB and the BRA since 1927, we acknowledge that this issue does encompass a lot of history and privileges that have been removed. Additionally, as our founding family members were the original retail outlets of both the winter store for locals and for a period of time the summer store, we also identify with the retail and business concerns that the current bylaw has on businesses, especially Southeast. Let's clear up some misconceptions. It is dangerous and generally impossible to access the lake either at the end of 504 or at the yacht club or swim docks with a regular vehicle. It's impossible to access the opening at Albert Beach to go out ice fishing. You do definitely need a snowmobile or a track type of vehicle. Access to the lake for ice fishing is necessary. Sappy's store is inside the RMBB, and I'm going to take a direct quote from my conversation with the Victoria Beach Cottage Owners Association. He quoted, "Snowmobiles will want to drive up and down the avenues and streets in the BRA because it is so pretty. Snowmobiles cannot drive properly on a plowed street, as well as the gravel is harmful to the machines. The use of municipal roadways should be limited to egress and regress." The Victoria Beach Cottage Owners Association executive also believed that you can just take your regular car and drive right out onto the lake and go ice fishing. That's absolutely not true and incredibly dangerous. And one of the executives also believed that Southeast store is not in the RMBB, when of course indeed it is in the RMBB. More misconceptions. In reference to ORV users wanting to egress and regress to the trails, it appears that the term trails requires definition. By trails, we mean the ditch along Highway 59 and Highway 504, allowing safe access to the network of snowman groom trails in the winter and Bel Air ATV Club and ATV Manitoba trails in the summer. You'll see that I've added maps of each of those in Appendixes A and B. Just as a reference point there, some of the Victoria Beach Cottage Owner Association executive believed that when we were referring that we wanted egress and regress to the trails, they believed the trails, by trails we meant the trails in behind the BB golf course, in behind the community center, just in the arm of BB. Absolutely not. We want to get out to 504, 59, either up to the lake or down to the trails in Bel Air Forest and beyond. Next misconception, snowman nor the BB Snowdrifters have zero interest in grooming avenues and streets inside the VRA to become part of their groomed network. The Victoria Beach Cottage Owners Association president also believed, as I noted in the statement earlier, that snowman would now want to add the avenues and streets of the VRA to be part of the snowman groom network. In Appendix C, you will see a statement from the BB Snowdrifters that clarifies this comment, that they are absolutely not interested in that. Let's talk about the current problem. The current bylaw banning all ORV traffic on any municipal roadway has no consideration for historical operation of ORVs and RMVB. For example, snowmobiles have been here for over 60 years, have contributed greatly to this community through the creation and maintenance of trails, assistance in public safety. They supplemented the local economy. So, on top of that, I've had all my privileges as a respectful ORV owner and operator taken away from me. The current bylaw, also the council, in reference to that bylaw, suggests that the owners trailer their vehicles to a staging location for use. This would add an additional cost for an enclosed trailer of approximately $15,000 or more to each owner, and in our case, since we have 4 snowmobiles, it would add an additional $30,000 plus tax in cost to us. Trailers are the easiest targets for theft of ORVs. Sure, you can put wheel locks on, but those are cut so fast. And then what about parking? Where would the RM suggest I park my 2 double-wide trailers? Our roadways are too narrow to park on and would not allow the snowplow to access nor emergency vehicle access. And if you tell me to put them in my driveway, well then where do I put my vehicles? All right. The current bylaw also allows for the identification of, and I call it discrimination, of all ORV users as bad. We are all at this point in time law-breaking citizens. Law enforcement has no way to discern who are the bad ORV operators from the good ones. So hence the ones to ticket from those of us that are the respectful operators. Removal of privileges equals the loss of outlet of recreation for some, can also equal the loss of a business model for others that are harvesters that use access to the trails and lakes with their harvesting cart. And also, what about the loss of revenue to Safi Store? That is going to be addressed by another delegation. We're not going to come with problems only, we come with solutions. Our solution would be to abolish and redo or vastly amend the current bylaw and start almost fresh with a new bylaw allowing for egress and regress on municipal roadways. We understand that to appease the VRA area, this may mean a special sticker. We definitely know we need to allow access off the lake and down Safi Road to Safi Store. We love a speed limit restriction. We want to also make sure that everybody feels comfortable that the VRA 10-week season remains 100% vehicle restricted. We don't want egress or regress inside the VRA in that vehicle restricted period of time. We need to incorporate a vast number of clearly discernible signage. Just something I came across here. Effective and informative signage is important to the local economy, is a public safety factor, and can strengthen community identity and pride. All right, we have a few questions. What was the response when RMVB approached the province to allow for amendments which would allow ORV egress and regress? In reference to the Highway Traffic Act, if you have not reached out, why? And if not, do you require someone to help you achieve this? How much time or money did you invest in researching alternatives with the province or in conjunction with neighboring municipalities or any municipalities that have good working models that you could have used or still can use for a template? The RM of Alexander has proven that this is possible. Without question, we understand that the RMVB would be a different model, but there are some workable templates out there. The RM of Alexander has requested for months to meet with the RMVB Council to talk about good neighbor policies, at which time Saffy's Road would likely be a discussion item. As per the RM of Alexander, the RMVB is refusing to meet with them until after March. Why is that?
That is not true. No.
In summary, we find it's important to realize that the Victoria Beach Cottage Owners Association executive is misinformed on several points, and therefore likely their VRA members are also likely misinformed. There is a lot of community frustration over decades-old privileges that have been removed. Egress and regress is what this is all about. Please realize that trailers are not a reasonable option for most. We love the idea of being able to ticket the bad apples, ticket the disrespectful ORV operators. Please allow Saffy's to do their business as usual. They are such a benefit to everyone in our community. And please be flexible in understanding the larger picture of this issue as it relates to the entire RMVB community, in addition to the good neighbor policy of neighboring communities. As noted earlier, Appendix A of the Bel Air ATV Club and ATV Manitoba Trail Map. Appendix B, the Snowman Trail Map. And Appendix C, the letter from the BB Snowdrifters regarding grooming inside the RMVB and particularly the avenues and streets in the VRA. Thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate you having us do this presentation.
I just need to address a couple misconceptions in Patty's presentation, and it was a very good presentation, and I appreciate that she comes with some solutions. We have scheduling issues in meeting with the Arm of Alexander. We are not refusing to meet with the Arm of Alexander. There's holidays, there's just a variety of reasons why we couldn't meet earlier than we are in March. It was not a refusal. I know the BBCOA has had conversations with Ms. Metcalf, Ms. Ulrich, pardon me, and I know some of the questions have been answered already tonight in regards to some of her comments. The Arm of Victoria Beach has looked at other templates from other municipalities in regards to the bylaw, an ORV bylaw. We have checked with municipal affairs. We have, Steve alluded to an email he had with a legislative body in terms of what we can and cannot do under the ORV Act. We have not been negligent in that regard. We have been doing our due diligence, and part of our due diligence is listening to our residents, which we're doing tonight and which we will do in 2 weeks' time as well. Are there any other comments in regard to Patty's?
I want to personally apologize to the BBCOA because delegations need to be under the same respect guidelines as everyone else. And it is completely offside to come here and start just ripping into people. If you have a private conversation with somebody else, fine. But you don't come here and start ripping into that person. We cannot start this again. And I got several emails and comments about, how frustrated I was in the last meeting. The reason I was so frustrated was because this was an absolute nightmare the last time I went through this because of that type of attitude. It's unacceptable, and I'm sorry that he had to go through that. On top of that, being threatened to be punched in the face earlier in this meeting.
Thank you, Steve.
I'm going to step in and say something.
No, you're not going to step in. No, you're not. If you keep it up, you'll be removed. Can you please remove him? Can you please remove him?
Okay, you got Steve lipping off here.
Excuse me. This is not your meeting.
This guy's so full of
This
shit.
is not your meeting.
You're full of shit, Axworthy. You constantly are. Nothing but lies come out of that fucking mouth.
Thank you, Audie.
Sorry about that.
No, I know that doesn't represent the community at large, trust me.
That's fine.
Thank you. We appreciate that, thank you. So that does take us to the end of our delegations. Lon, did you want to add anything?
Well, I just wanted to speak to one comment that Patty made. We don't need to reach, the VV doesn't need to reach out to the province to make its own bylaws for ORVs and snowmobiles. The only reason we would need to do that is if the RM wanted to allow snowmobiles or ORVs onto the shoulder or the road of Highway 59 or 504, then we would have to get approval by the minister. But all the municipal roads, we don't have to reach out to the province.
I think we do have to notify the minister that we are amending our.
No, we don't. No. Like I said, yes.
I've read it, subject to interpretation. Maybe it would be just a courtesy.
No, that's not subject to interpretation. That's the law. We do not need to. We have total jurisdiction over the municipal roads.
I defer to the CEO.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all so much for your patience. It's 20 after 9. I know some members of the council may need a 5-minute break. You are welcome to stay. 7 minutes, pardon me. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting, and thank you all again for your input and your thoughtful comments and suggestions.
What is yeah, what is
To sit all that
What should have been the format, a lot of information.
That's the problem. There's too many of us.
Take care of it. I've been working on
How are you doing? Good, you? Good. And your boys are doing good? Yeah. They're good. Well,
Yeah, but that's your pivot to stab. And I don't think engineering wasn't his ball.
the online learning is what's for him, right?
We're just happy there's wheels
Thinking of what they're going to do.
Re-engaging with society, education.
So we live out here in
Yeah.
Sounded like as if
they
don't have parties. No, you know what? We
well, I wouldn't say that.
We all go into houses. I was out, like, say something to you and let's go.
Yeah, they're respectful of young boys, but I'm sure there's a thing or two that goes on that we don't know. Yeah, and Kyle, the second born, he was normal high school graduation. So we snuck him through on that one. But, you know, and again, it's one of these things where how do you find direction in your life every time? So they're both kind of debating. They were on pause there for a couple of years. Yeah. Kathy and I talked about what we were doing at that age. We're spreading our wings and having a... I like less.
Right.
Well, I didn't even know at the time Kathy and I were fully vaccinated. Oh, hey, man. I wanted to say, I took your question. And the other ATV one, I don't even know what ATV. I should have shut my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Somebody doesn't want to speak up, Russ, so I just...
I don't know when you guys were in services, and I didn't know anything about this regulation until they started
I
getting
just
tickets.
saw it on Facebook, people getting ticketed. Yeah. And then when you get... How are you doing? With me? Okay. Oh, yeah. Nancy, this is Bill. He's an old friend. So he's an old friend of ours. My sister's husband's best friend. So he actually having a stroke, right? Oh, okay. So we pulled up property off of Will and her husband. Yeah. And I remember she said to me, she bought it like late summer, it was like getting towards fall, and you said you're gonna have to fill it up with a bunch of babies. And the funny thing is, I didn't know at the time, but I went to our and so when we came,
Council, please take your seats. Council,
and I
where are you?
the stroller. Yeah.
Sounds true.
Yeah, you don't even drink because the enforcement wasn't happening.
Please, he's talking about...
Graham, where are you?
Graham Randall, Brian Graham Randall.
Shall we open the and turn the music on?
So there's go in here.
Right, thank you for those of you who are still here. All right, council is now back at the table, and we do not have any hearings on the schedule. We sort of had one. Accounts and finances is up next. Be it resolved that the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 10947, 10969 in the amount of $88,951.09. January payroll in the amount of $85,883.40, and the visa statement for January 21st, 2023 in the amount of $2,711.75. May I have a mover, gentlemen?
I'll move that.
Graham, thank you. Second. Steve, thank you. Ian, do you have any comments on the accounts?
No, just a couple. As you mentioned, it was 88. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. 88,951 on the accounts payable. There was 22 checks. Two items that sort of stand out. One was the $50,000 that went for police housing, and then we bought a used trailer for $3,800. But everything else is fine. I think they're fine.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, gentlemen? Erwin?
Just some clarification on that police. The purchase agreement was split out over 2 or 3 years, so we got a break from the supplier, eased up on our cash flow.
With no interest.
With no interest. Thank you.
Graham did that.
Yes, he did. All right, any further comments on the accounts payable? All those in favor? Carried. Sorry, Ian, did you want to add anything? You good?
No, I would say aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to business arising from the previous meeting. Brief discussion on the zoning bylaw and the development plan. I've sent some edits to all of council on a letter that Erwin was working on, and I sent some edits asking for comments on the frequently asked questions to council. So when you have some time, if you could get that back to me, we can get this ball really rolling.
We kind of got hit by a snowstorm, so we will be working on getting that information on the zoning review process that we hope to begin in the springtime.
Thank you.
You may all know that the zoning bylaw is dead, so we're working on resurrecting it to a more palatable form to better suit the needs of the community.
Even though Dr. Cooley very nicely said he thought it was a fine bylaw, apparently others disagree.
Just need a few tweaks.
Am I still on a gag order? Can I talk?
No. But thank you. Right, any further comments on the zoning discussion?
No.
All right, thank you. Moving on to other business, we have membership request from Eastman Tourism on the agenda. Be it resolved to approve Tourism Eastman membership in the amount of $1,050 per year. We are Tier 4. May I have a mover? Steve, second. Thank you. Seconder? Erwin, thank you. Discussion, I would, the Tier 4 is related to our budget numbers,
The size of your municipality, assessment?
Okay, so assessment, so that's, right. You know, given what we've just heard tonight, it's hard to say this out loud, but we really do not have services for tourism, to support tourism. We don't have hotels, we don't have motels. We have Sappy's store, who deserve to be mentioned. We don't have services for tourism, so I'm not so sure that it's a worthwhile expenditure for Victoria Beach. Erwin?
We have not been a member for quite some time now. I'm just wondering, where did this come from?
I think it's an annual campaign, probably.
Yeah, it was a form letter that came to us, and quite frankly, I'm not inclined to support a resolution to join the club and pay the money.
Steve?
Pretty much feel the same way.
Ian, do you have any comments on this?
No, I kind of agree with you that it's not really something that is going to benefit us 100%.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor, so all those in favor of becoming a member? All those opposed? Carried, defeated, thank you. Moving on to the abuse policy brought out by the AMM and Western Financial Group as a new requirement for municipalities. Whereas the Association of Manitoba Municipalities Insurance Program requires the adoption of an abuse and molestation policy to help protect municipalities against potential statements of claim and to create a zero-tolerance environment for abuse within communities. Therefore, be it resolved to approve the RMVB abuse policy number 2023-001. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Graham, thank you. Any discussion?
Can I ask a favor? I haven't had a chance to read it. I just got home late last night. Would it be appropriate to table this till the next meeting so we could have a little more detailed discussion on the our abuse policy?
It is a 4-page document, so is council all right with holding off on this till February 21st? Lon?
It was provided to us by AMM through the Western Insurance Group. I didn't write this. They just asked for us to acknowledge it, to sign it, and send back a copy by the end of February. If you want to table it, I think there's still time on it. It wasn't something that we wrote.
Yeah. Can we make sure if it's moved ahead to the next meeting then, please?
All right. If that's what you'd like to do?
On February 21, I guess it's time to
So tabled, this item is tabled until February 21st. Please make sure you read this policy. It's unfortunate that we have to have something like this, but we do. Society has made that an issue. All right, moving on to bylaw number 1642, ORV first reading. I would like to remove this from the agenda.
I would agree.
All right, thank you. Ian, did you have a comment? Sorry, I keep forgetting about you.
Sorry, I didn't hear everything you said. Are you talking about what number is the bylaw?
This is bylaw number 1642.
Oh, right, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there are people here wondering why the heck we're doing this and what was on it. This bylaw has not received first reading yet, so we can't make it public, but it was a draft bylaw to try and deal with the situation at hand tonight. It needs a lot of work if we were going to pass it, and given the presentations we heard tonight and the presentations we will also probably be hearing at the next council meeting, we would like to listen first before we put in anything major. So that is one of the reasons why we'd like it removed from the agenda.
I was the bad guy who drafted 1642. And it became obvious, we were hearing some feedback saying we just need a little more time to consider this. I think tonight was a good example of the kind of feedback council's looking for. I think we need a little bit more. I don't think the intention that we're not killing the bylaw, we're simply saying let's postpone first reading until we can get some more feedback, and we may be able to add some additional changes before we actually go to first reading. So I respectfully ask that we push the pause button on this one.
Thank you. So moving on then to bylaw 1643, which was added to the agenda, which was a bylaw on the ORVs that was written by our CAO in the last couple of days. I'm wondering if perhaps it should also be paused until we've had more consultation with the community, or if you would like me to move it forward.
I think in the interest of time, because there is a process we have to go through, first reading, second reading, third reading. The intention of 1643 will to try and solve the Safi store problem as far as access for fuel. And so I think it could be in the interest of the community to at least have first reading. We can then legally share the document with all of our constituents, get feedback, and then go on to second and third reading. We still will have the opportunity to amend the bylaw at the second or third reading.
All right.
I agree entirely with Erwin. We do have a draft of a bylaw called 1643 that will solve the problem in the interim.
All right, gentlemen, can I put a motion on the floor then, and we can properly discuss this?
Yes.
Thank you. Be it resolved to approve first reading of bylaw 1643 to amend bylaw 1614, a bylaw to regulate the use of ORVs within the municipality. May I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Graham, second. Erwin, thank you. All right, now we can have a proper discussion.
Yeah, sorry I intruded there. I think it's important that we pass first reading with this bylaw, because then it becomes public knowledge. We are compelled to publish it on our website for all to see, which invites some feedback, some give and take. As Erwin has suggested, based on the feedback, we can amend it further. But I think it's a very good start at healing the wounds that we've tried to address this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Steve?
The essence of it, the essence of the change is it will allow Safi Road to be used for machines to come off Highway 59, to come off the lake on Girard, and to come off the Pit Road trail and access slowly. There's a speed limit on it, 20 kilometers per hour, slowly and safely access down to Sappy's to purchase fuel.
This is also strictly a snowmobile bylaw. Basically, it's a snowmobile bylaw.
At the moment,
this time,
it's
at this
snowmobile
time.
only. Yeah. At this time.
I mean, it needs some work. It is a first draft, and it needs some work, and I'm sure we'll get some feedback.
Yes.
That needs to be changed. Currently,
Again, have a look at it. It's, okay.
So the biggest issue that I see with this is that it's only opening up Sappy's and Gerard. So I don't necessarily have an issue with that. Only because, you're going to solve the Sappy problem, but what you don't solve is anybody in Albert Beach who wants to access Sappy's, they will be breaking the bylaw and then turn Sappy.
No, they won't. They get to use Sappy Road.
To drive up to Sappy Road. Because,
They can be on Sappy Road,
No,
in this bylaw.
yes, I understand, but there's more roads in Albert Beach than Sappy's.
We're not responsible for the Arm of Alexander's roads, so it's our roads. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know, I get people who are living on Leo Blay or Dennisett or Hope. Yes. We still haven't addressed the egress for residents. That's a bigger issue.
Just from a person that has to write these bylaws, this one is to help Sappy store as fast as we can, so people on the trails coming off the lake, coming off this, can get to Sappy's and get gas and other stuff. This is the quickest way, I think, legally and everything that the council can do this to help them out. The other bylaw, 1642, is comprehensive, and it addressed the whole RM, and it addressed egress and things like that, and just hopefully, listening tonight, you can hear the multiple perspectives and different acts and all this other stuff. And when you write a bylaw, you have to be really super clear in your wording, so our police can understand it, so we can understand it, so you can understand it. And the first draft was pretty good, really, but there's a lot more that really needs to be put into that bylaw, so we can address all the issues that have come up tonight. And the 1643 is just a really quick to help Sappy out. And I would just like to add, I just noticed driving today that the Rue Gerard is part of the trail, but there's a Pitt Road, north of Pitt Road, that's a snow trail too, by the looks of things. So I would ask the council maybe open that too, because they come in off the lake on Pitt Road.
Pit Road is a recognized snowman trail.
I know, but it's in the RM, we allow them on that right now?
Yes.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. They're allowed, snowmobiles are allowed on the snowman trails. Yeah, and they're allowed on the snowman trail that takes them from Highway 59 and 504 to the East Beaches Community Center as well.
59 and 504 are provincial highways.
That's true.
Pitt Road is ours.
We allow them on Pit Road.
No, the road allows north of Sappy, the Pitt Road allows to the Alice Lane or whatever we call it, that's ours.
So,
go ahead.
I'm not saying open the whole RM to snowmobiles. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this solution, while I fully accept it, it solves the staff store issue. What it is going to do, because we have a police chief who is going to enforce it, right? Is that anybody who has a snowmobile within Albert Beach to drive up to Sappy's is then going to get ticketed, and we're going to start at the exact same place as we are in right now, which is saying that this is unfair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm saying is that if we're doing this, then to prevent that issue from coming up, then what we actually need to do is open up Albert Beach to snowmobiles.
What about the residents who don't live in Albert Beach?
That's a separate issue right now.
I mean, that's the next, we're going to have to revisit this and make this, this is going to be another
Clearly,
process.
this is a Band-Aid solution.
It's a good start.
It opens things up a tiny, tiny bit, and then the heavy lifting will get done later.
Yeah, with public feedback.
Okay. Ian, do you have any comments?
No, I agree with Lon that it is a short-term solution that if you started opening it up for Albert Beach, you'd have the same issue with the Sand Hill area, the Wanasing area, that they'd say, why can't I go the 100 feet to the highway to go up to Sappy's Road? So it's a bigger issue, and what we've heard tonight, we've heard one side of the issue. I suppose next week we'll hear the other side of the issue, and then we'll have some tough work trying to figure out what to do, because obviously it's a big issue on both sides. It's not just one-sided, so it'll be tough to come up with a solution. I certainly liked what Mr. Tia said. It's amazing how they've been snowmobiling for 60-odd years, and all of a sudden, over the last year or so, there's all this problem. So it's clearly a problem. It's just something we have to figure out how to solve. And I'm sure we're all intelligent enough to come up with a solution in the next bylaw that we put together.
All right. Any further discussion on 1643? No. All right, all those in favor? All right, carried. Ian? Carried. All right, so this bylaw will be on our website in the next day or two for residents to review. Please bear in mind it is a first draft.
And it is not currently effective. Distinct rules still apply.
All right. Steve, you had an item on the agenda, 3 meetings for a bylaw. We don't have a resolution put forward. Do you still want this on, even though the conversation tonight, or are you willing to hold off?
I think right now I'm willing to hold out. If there was other bylaw, absolutely I'd want to go forward right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Penny, I didn't hear what you said. What did you say earlier?
I put forward a resolution that would have been asking council to agree to have a separate meeting for each individual reading of any ORV bylaw, but that was under the premise that we were going to be pushing forward with the bylaw that we just decided to not move forward, because we're moving forward with what was the one that Lon has put forward, that I'm saying that I no longer want to do that.
Great, I get it now. I just didn't hear it, sorry. I feel like people are talking when they're underwater, so.
Oh, sorry.
It's not the best time.
All right. We are a bit underwater. All right, correspondence is up next, gentlemen, and as we've heard tonight, and we received numerous emails over the last couple of weeks on this bylaw and on issues surrounding this bylaw. Have we received other emails?
Massive correspondence, and I've read every one of them. I think each councillor has looked at the correspondence, and I'm glad to see that tonight's meeting brought out most of what that correspondence had to say.
All right, and someone has asked if we would be putting correspondence in the minutes. We do not track correspondence and put it individually in the minutes. So we do not do that, nor do we read out correspondence unless it's been specifically requested by a resident.
Well, we are required, with correspondence that comes to council from a resident or whomever, we're obliged to regard that as confidential. They don't all want it displayed, so we have to regard it as confidential. But something that that can come to the public, one or the other of us will bring forward an item of correspondence if we think it would be of any interest or any use to discuss it. So it's not discarded, it's read, and it's only brought forward if it's relevant.
Thanks, Greg. All right, any other correspondence? No?
No.
Erwin?
Just one comment. You may have noticed me looking at my phone from time to time. My 104-year-old father-in-law is in hospital, and my wife is with him.
Yeah, Erwin came home from visiting family in Fort Mac to finding out that his father-in-law, 104 years old, veteran.
It's the first time he's been in hospital.
Isn't that amazing? Over 104 years? Wish we could all say the same. All right, we will move on.
We wish him well.
Yes, we do. I have nothing further. Anybody else? You sure? You've got a couple hours left until midnight.
I've never been more sure.
All right, be it resolved, we do not have an in-camera session either. Be it resolved, the February 7th, 2023 regular council meeting be adjourned. Next meeting on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Winnipeg office. Thank you, Graham. Second, Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Ian.
And you indeed.
Back to